Welcome to the University of Suffolk podcast. I'm Gemma Matton, and today we are focusing on logistics and an organisation helping to connect the industry locally and nationally. I'm joined by James Miller and Paula Bellamy, co-founders of Hive Connect, a network bringing together people across freight, ports, haulage, warehousing, customs and distribution to collaborate, learn and share knowledge. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So could you both briefly introduce yourselves and tell us how you got into logistics?
I started in logistics when I was 16 and just went to a basic freight forwarder. Enjoyed that, but always had a challenge inside me that I wanted to do something else. So I did various different segments of freight forwarding, and I also worked in Her Majesty's Customs. And yeah, just really enjoyed that in my young years. And yeah, that's literally how I started. Paula on a moped going from Curtin to Felixstowe to work in an office.
And James?
Similar story. Fell into freight forwarding, probably like a lot of people did. In fact, one of the things we said at the start of Hive was we've always said we fell into freight forwarding, wish we tried harder at school, but actually the big point of Hive is we enjoy what we do. It's a really good industry. But for me, it was out of school at 16, did an MVQ in international business as an apprentice, and then have worked for freight forwarders till I started my own business in networking in about 2018.
So what's kept you in the industry?
I think variation for me. When you're a person living in the UK and you're dealing with different countries, maybe curiosity comes in and you want to see what's going on in the world. And I was lucky enough to have the opportunity very early on to travel, and then also to have the opportunity to live and work in another country. Being able to pick up your career and take it with you is a huge thing. And logistics is so vast that it gives you an opportunity to work in other countries and learn something new every day.
It's international networking, so that's interesting because you're meeting people from around the world. But also we are the front line of UK PLC. So people working in Felixstowe, I think Felixstowe handles 36% of containerized traffic in the UK.
Yeah.
If the world economy sneezes, we're the first people to find out.
Yeah.
So tell us how you two actually met.
After you, James, I know you like to tell this story.
Yeah, I've told it a few times. I started my networking. Somebody in Jordan, in the Middle East, said, you must know Paula. She's British and she lives in the UAE, in Dubai. And I've started with 67, 68 million people in the UK. I don't think I'm going to know Paula. To which he replies, she's from Trimley. Okay, that narrows it down a bit.
Yeah, he connected us via email, obviously, because I was living in Dubai. But I always came home for Christmas. When James messaged me, he said, random thing, we've been introduced by Ali in Jordan, let's meet. So we met in the Alex for a drink. And then we realized like our careers had just gone alongside each other, but we just actually had never met. But because we had that love of networking and helping people and the industry of logistics, that yeah, we connected straight away.
And so what I find in my networking since I started, the people that might fall away are the people that you don't tend to have a connection with.
Yeah.
And with Paula, I guess we just had very similar views on lots of things around freight, around networking.
We shared our plans for business and our aspirations on what we wanted to do. And we helped each other from our own knowledge and our own backgrounds. James would really ground me because I would come back to the UK and not really understand what was going on. So he would help me in that respect. And then I wanted to grow and open a new office, and James was doing the same thing. So we really related to each other in business, didn't we?
It's great that you've got that relationship and the fact that you just by chance met just from that one connection.
How strange.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what does that story say about how interconnected logistics really is?
Actually, it does say quite a lot. We were both respected people by Ali and Jordan to want to connect both of us. He admired us both and just said, you'll get something out of each other. And that's what networking is. It's not always about what you want. It's what you can give. And we really like to support people like that. And I think because James and I looked at each other and thought, how can we help each other? And we didn't say that physically, but because we're that type of person and we like to help people, I think that's why we really did connect.
You say it's interconnected, it is. But that's one part of freight, so that's freight forwarding. The networking that I do internationally is for freight forwarders. But the big point, and Hive Connect, which is the networking that we started, that started really in 2018 or whenever, 2019 when we first met, when Paula was still in the UAE. And we had these conversations about, wouldn't it be great to do something locally? Because as much as freight forwarding internationally is interconnected, what you have is a really strange situation where shipping lines, container hauliers, ports, freight forwarders, customs agents, and so forth are not connected. And we're not sharing best practice, even though, I mean, we can only talk as freight forwarders, where you're relying on the container hauliers, on the ports or the shipping lines, but actually we're not talking to each other. And as freight forwarders, we're consultants. In the main, we don't own vessels, warehouses, aircraft and so forth. So we're relying on those people. So wouldn't it be great if that became interconnected across the whole supply chain?
For me, I came back at the end of COVID. So I turned up into a country that I hadn't been in for 10 years, didn't realize what was going on around me. Everybody had been isolated. And so we hit it from two angles, like coming back into a meeting where, yes, you need, like James said, you need the hauliers to talk to the warehouses. You need the warehouses to talk to the freight forwarders. And so it goes on. And people were sitting in their offices or their homes, which they are still, because some of my staff do, and not talking. And if you don't generally just chit chat, you don't get to those bits of pieces of information that you really need. And even that isn't enough. So if you come to a meeting, and the Freight Club used to do it really well as well, but we just found it needs to be smaller, it needs to be local, it needs to start here, and it needs to bring in all of these different sides of the industry together, because not only might you need them, it's really interesting. It's really interesting to go on the port tour and find out what the port does. It's really interesting to hear what a haulier says and what their challenges are. So all of those things really became very interconnected, and it ended up laying itself out for us as to why Hive was needed. But it's still really super scary to start it. But now, having done a full year, now we can see the plus and the minuses, the challenges for us leading something like this, but also the benefits and how people have been talking about it, which has been really nice.
So what have you found are the main challenges and benefits from starting Hive?
Challenges, I think, are bringing people to every meeting. So where you have a freight forwarder, don't just come to the meeting that's about freight forwarding, come to the one that's about shipping lines or ports or warehousing, whatever, because that's where you'll learn. That's where you'll learn about what the other people are doing in the supply chain. And we always include networking as well. And the point we hammer home, if you like, is you don't share business because you've met somebody once. It
takes time.
You have to keep doing it. And internationally, it's easy because it's freight forwarding and it's different countries. But just because you've met a warehouse doesn't mean you're going to change all of your business and give it to a warehouse. You need to meet them 2 or 3 times. And again, it's when you've got a problem or a particular piece of business that you need help on, there'll be a warehouse you've met at Hive that can do that for you.
I think a lot of people also turn up looking to shop, but not always to sell. So I think they need to sit down and look around the room and think, how could I sell to these people? And then, like James says, come more than once. We do a maximum of 5 different style meetings in a year. But yeah, changing your mindset as to why you come. You don't just come to get the information. The information is a massive plus point. The networking is where I feel that some people are challenged because they're not doing it properly. And that sounds awful, but don't just go to listen and learn that you could have a different warehouse. Think who's in that room that you could sell your services to. Because how do we know that you're an AOG specialist in air freight? How do we know that you can do chilled goods in your warehouse? How would we know that unless you told us? So you have to do a little pitch when you're having a conversation with somebody. Just have your top 5 things that you really would like to sell in your business in your mind and have that conversation in a different way. And I think that's something that we really learn, because it's not like we're not going to have a masterclass in networking, because that would be really boring for everybody. But it's not a bad thing for us to say today in this podcast. Think about how you're having a conversation, because maybe you're just doing yourself a little bit of a disservice by not selling what you're really good at.
Absolutely. It throws back to that introduction for both of you. Without having that, this would never have happened. So it's just having that, as you say, relationship with people and developing that, and then it's something amazing could grow from it. But without doing
their
that,
inner confidence, right? Because all of us are scared of something, and we all have been in our careers. But you do need to find a bit of confidence, and please reach out to us and come and speak about what it is that you're good at. Because so many people don't want to talk. But when you've got 35, maybe 45 people sitting in a room just listening to you, do you realize how powerful that is? You're getting that message across to so many individual companies, bosses, people on the desk. You just say how good you are, and they listen, and it costs you nothing.
Exactly. And so it only takes one person, doesn't it, to think, oh, actually, that's something that would really benefit us. And then all of a sudden something, as amazing, grows from that.
Yes.
So what would you say at the moment are the skills that are lacking from the industry? And what sort of qualifications would you say that is really needed within the industry?
So one of the I guess we call it unexpected things to come out of this first year is that we've engaged with the University of Suffolk, with the new college, with Suffolk One and different organisations. And we actually realised if I explain our meetings, you arrive, you have a coffee, it's an early morning meeting. We'll then have some specialist speakers from the industry, and we might have one or two. You then break for a stand-up breakfast. You'll then come back, and we're really fortunate we have the Lodestar, which are one of the kind of world's foremost journalists in the supply chain. They talk. We have Alex and Gavin who speak.
They're like a comedy duo.
Yeah, it's a container market overview and an air freight overview. And then we always bring somebody from the education side. And what we've found in the last year, we actually now have delegates or people coming to our meetings now providing work experience to people at college. So that's unexpected, but really nice to be doing something. I would say soft skills. Interpersonal skills are really important in what we do.
Direct skills in the offices now, even the basics of the customs clearance, the export rules and regulations, shipment terms, those things are still needed because new people are coming in all the time. And one of the most difficult things when you work in an office is to train the junior. The basic skills are still needed, but the skills are changing. Obviously, IT is becoming a massive change, automation. So I guess we mirror a lot of different industries in what we do need the colleges to come up with on a lot of the qualifications because they just haven't been there.
I think it is changing as well because, for example, somebody in fact just around the corner from here, Denmark Logistics, who are using, I'm going to say, a mixture of AI and APIs to read documents. They actually have tech people who are just scanning and reading the documents, and every time it reads one, it gets better. It understands and learns more. So there's definitely more of a technological slant to the learning because that allows us all to be more competitive.
Yeah.
In fact, the industry or freight forwarding definitely is pretty cutthroat. So historically, you'll lose business for $5, $10 on a sea freight rate. So actually now it becomes about how much it costs you to run that file as opposed to just the cost of the freight and so forth.
It's about how quickly can they go to the 5 or 6 companies that they know they're going to get the pricing on, and is there any margin to be able to upload that? So it's a trading element as well. But some of the skills now are going to be automated. You're training them better than you ever have done before because we have to be. The likes of Amazon, DHL, all the big guys that are already automating things. The smaller companies need to get that done as well, but they need the qualifications and the training for their people to be as cheap as possible because the margins just aren't there to pay the big bucks.
Yeah, absolutely. I can actually see that obviously AI, data science, that kind of thing would really benefit your industry. So at the university, we're keen to respond directly to industry needs and explore how we can work with Hive Connect to help shape the courses that support the logistics centres. So if we were to work together, what qualifications and course content would be most beneficial?
I did a distance learning degree. Actually, what I found was what's on the other side of the fence. So what my customers do, why they're doing what they're doing. And it's the understanding of the whole supply chain that makes you really invaluable because we have this processes just in time, for example, where people are keeping absolutely minimal stock because every time you keep stock of something, it costs money. So they're keeping just enough stock to keep the whole thing going. But what we see as freight forward is, I need that there delivered tomorrow without fail. But you're not understanding the process behind that and why a particular client is always wanting it delivered now. It's understanding why people are doing things a bit behind what you're doing. We're only one small part of it. So I think there's an element of teaching people everything in the supply chain and what you do and how that impacts the next people and the next people.
For me, thinking about in my office with the modes of transport that we have to pull apart, it might be nice to have some form of training, qualification to dig deeper into each of those individually, because each comes with a process and those processes change. Because I'm thinking with the Good Freight office that I work very closely with, talking about the air, talking about the sea are so very different. So if I wanted to train my sea staff on the air freight processes, we need some kind of basic qualification to be able to cover those processes a little bit like what you were saying.
But also consider in the next period of time, the big change coming is environmental concerns.
Yeah.
And the next generation, much more than massive, they'll be buying freight based on CO2 emissions. And now, for example, in the EU, you have to calculate your CO2 emissions and it has to be on your freight invoice by law. In a freight forwarder environment, we're very much rate and margin driven. If your customer says to you, CO2 emissions, that's my main concern, all of a sudden your model's completely changed. And I'm not sure how many people would have a skill set or not.
If we don't put the training in, how on earth are we going to be able to answer these futuristic questions?
A client comes to you and says, I just need the lowest CO2 emissions from point A to point B. Are you and your staff trained at the minute to go and get that?
The Good Freight guys are.
Okay.
They have a system which calculates their CO2 emissions on every single quote.
Oh, wow. Okay, good.
Which is automated. So that's something fresh that they've got, but that means that they're ready for tomorrow. Whereas I believe most forwarders aren't, because I know for the OL group, we haven't quite got there yet. So it's interesting for me to work inside another company and watch what they're doing because they're more automation focused. Whereas OL, we have a massive group of people working around the world. We're just still not quite there.
It's like having a supply chain qualification that's heavily based on AI, data science. That's the kind of thing that it sounds like that you're currently looking for. We are very open to listening to the industry experts where we can develop qualifications that fit with what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So that is obviously something that I know we've spoken about and helping and supporting in that way. And hopefully we can get something in place that is going to support the industry moving forward.
Yeah.
Young people have the best ideas as well. If I look at what I did in my last job as a freight forwarder before I became or went into networking at my own company, I talked to my nephew, especially at the time, and explained the process. And the process then, and it's probably changed since, was you received an email with booking instructions. You then manually typed that into the website booking system of a shipping line. And straight away, what are you doing? What are you, you're manually re-inputting the same data. Why isn't there a... Yeah. And that's when young people look at these processes and just go, you can make that a lot easier. And guess what? You then free up people to do much more valuable things.
And this is where we have to work together, right? Because the dinosaurs will say, stop sending emails, pick up the phone, speak to people, for goodness sake. Speak, interact. And the young people that came to Hive also said, thank goodness we've got something where we can test these skills out, because we've sat behind a desk, we're on email, we're on WhatsApp groups, everything that they have to be on. But we haven't been taught how to speak to people. So that's another dynamic that we did pick up on in the last year. We want young people to come because we love the fresh ideas and the stuff that we don't understand and how do we do this on our phone and all of that. But we also understand that the dynamic of the young and old together in logistics, it really does work as long as everybody will give each other a chance.
Absolutely.
Because brainstorming is where it's at. I did it just before I walked here today. We've got a youngster in our office and we were just generally talking about stuff, but the way his mind works compared to the way my mind works is completely different. So communication has always been the key in logistics, and it continues to be.
So actually, from what you've just described, apprenticeships is probably a great way of being able to introduce the younger generation into the industry, and then having their input, and then them being able to learn off of you as well.
Yes.
And yeah, so I think that would work really well. I think apprenticeships, obviously, I'm an advocate of apprenticeships anyway, but
Yeah, me too.
I do think that is the perfect partnership to be able to learn and earn at the same time.
Yes, 100%, because both my daughters have got the jobs that they wanted, but they've got this massive debt and they could have just done it through an apprenticeship. I do think the world's shifting, because when they went to uni, it was just about uni. When I left school, nobody talked about uni. So I think it's shifting back again, and it's lovely to see more apprenticeships coming about, and the companies need to be a lot more open to them. And
100%.
realising that these guys have got something to offer.
And they're probably all paying into a levy as well, which if they're not utilising it, it just goes straight back to the government anyway. So they might as well be utilising it with developing the next cohort of workforce.
Yeah, 100%.
I would say as well, though, that in an apprenticeship, they have the work experience so that then they don't come in at the bottom level necessarily, because they will have ideas as they're learning to just turn around on the day they start as a full-time employee to say, actually, you could do it like this, and it will be 10 times better than how well you're doing it now.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This has been such an insightful podcast. And
It's been fun.
It has. It's been really fun. And it's been so interesting learning about your journey. And so if I can just ask, with regards to Hive, how do people get involved with Hive if they're interested, if they're within the industry? How do they get involved and start becoming a member?
So they go to hiveconnect.me. We've just set out the dates for the coming year. They'll be on the website very shortly. The first one, I think, is Thursday, the 12th of February.
Well remembered. We've got lots of connections on LinkedIn, though. We would love to have a lot of fresh faces come to the February event.
Speakers as well. It's about finding good people that have something to share.
Yeah.
So if people...
Just, reach out and talk to us, and we'll find a way to make it work, because we like to give everybody a platform. It's how we started, basically.
In fact, the plan for February is, because it's Apprenticeships Week,
Yes.
that you will speak. So that'll be a really nice way to kick off 2026.
Oh, there we go. You're on the platform.
Fabulous. Oh, thank you so much. It's been so lovely. Thank you for joining us.
No, thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for listening.